Hello everyone, welcome to Canteen Cup. My name is Scott. It's a kind of a wet and dreary Friday today. We went to the range yesterday, did a little shooting, so I'm taking a little downtime today and cleaning some of my firearms. I don't clean them every time I shoot, but after so many rounds I do take them apart. So today we're cleaning the Glock, and I really just wanted to show some of the things I use and some of the things that I do when cleaning my weapons. As you can see over on the right, I have pipe cleaners, a dental tool, an M16 cleaning brush, and a toothbrush. Over on the left, I've got various sizes of swabs. I have my cleaning rod in the center, and then I have a disassembled pistol. So what do I use for cleaning? Well, I use a couple different products for cleaning. I don't get crazy. I don't buy a whole lot of gee whiz stuff. But I have discovered gun scrubber, and I like it a lot. It's a quick way to clean your firearm. You spray it on, drip it on, and let it drip out, and then it's pretty clean. Does a good job. As you can see, I also use Hops number 9 bore solvent. I've been using that since I was a kid, and there's just nothing wrong with it. It works really well. I also use Hops number 9 lubricating oil. I have two different containers. One is a needle tip and one is a standard flip over nozzle type. And then something new I've added is grease, and it's made by a company called Battleborn. I'm trying it on certain high wear areas to see how it works, and so far I kind of like it. I need to shoot it a little more to really see, but that's pretty much what I use now. I also have a bottle of CLP, which I use, but in general, I was watching a YouTube somewhere, and somebody came up with the thought, if it's a cleaner, lubricant, and protectant, then when you're applying it, is the cleaner degrading the lubricant or the protectant? I don't know. I do use CLP. I keep it in some of my kits. I like it because it is a one liquid answer to cleaning your weapons in the field, and so I keep CLP for that. However, when I'm sitting at my desk and I can use whatever I want, wherever I want, I use the separate items. I think that does a better job. So anyhow, just a quick video what we're doing today. I still have to clean my wife's firearms. I'll get to that next, but this is a good day to spend a rainy Friday. So everybody stay safe and stay secure, and we'll see you out there. Alright everyone, well, I finished my gun cleaning, and it's still a rainy, dreary day out, so I'm kind of doing some things around the house. And while I'm on the topic of guns, I wanted to talk about a couple things. And one is cleaning your guns. I know in the military service, you shot, you cleaned, you shot, you cleaned, you shot, you cleaned. And often they made it a very tedious, sometimes I think evil process. However, out here in we'll say the civilian world, is it necessary to clean your gun every time you shoot? And in today's world, with modern powders and modern primers and good quality bullets and other components, the answer to me is no. I do not clean my guns after every time I shoot. Sometimes I don't clean them every couple times I shoot. I don't feel there's a problem of shooting your gun a couple hundred rounds between cleanings. And as I've taken my guns apart to clean them, they're not that dirty. And so I don't think you have to do that. Now, like I said, using good cleaning components works, and it helps a lot. I know a lot of people use CLP, and I've used it for years, and I've also used other products. My favorite is still Hops number 9. I've used that since I was a kid. I use Hop's lubricating oil. It does a great job, and like I said, I use this battle-born grease on the slides and stuff, and so far it seems to be working pretty well. So I'm going to continue to use it for a while. It wasn't cheap, it wasn't expensive, but I thought it was a pretty good product. So that's kind of what I use. I also use Gun Scriber. It looks like this. It's a great product. It's a spray. It's kind of like contact cleaner. What I like about it is you spray it on your gun, it cleans out all the gunk, and then it kind of drains out and it air dries. And so I use it a lot on springs and such to get into places that I can't get with a Q-tip or a rag or a pipe cleaner or whatever. But I do like it a lot. And for a quick clean, you can't beat it. Spray it, lube it, go. But when I'm doing a cleaning like I did today, I disassemble the gun, I spray it, I wipe it down, and then I add lubricating oil and or grease and put it back together. So I do like it. Between that and Hop's number 9, those are my two go-to cleaning agents. Now I want to talk about gun modifications and then gun reliability. I haven't really touched on it too much, but I wanted to make it a point today that when you modify your gun, there's a couple things that you have to take in consideration. One is, how are you going to use it? In other words, is this going to be a field serviceable gun? Is this going to be your SHTF gun? Is it going to be your carry gun? Are you going to carry it every day? Or are you going to use it for something like an IPSC or an IDPA type competition? And the reason why I'm separating those is that there is a difference. People who tend to shoot in I'll say the professional sports or the gun sports competition type, their guns are different. A lot of times their triggers are lighter. They do other modifications to their guns to make them shoot very well in a competition environment. Now understand that when you are in a competition environment, that is a very controlled environment. There's a lot of safety rules that go into place. There's, how to carry your gun when you are not actually shooting. There is when to load the gun, when to unload the gun. There are people watching you that if you have an accidental discharge or you discharge your weapon and it was not in the direction of the target, that you could be penalized for that. Also, too, you train for these particular stages so you kind of know what's going on. And most importantly, as Chris Sanog says, it's a one-way range. In other words, you're just shooting at the targets, whereas when you're in a two-way range, there are people shooting back, and that changes the dynamic greatly. So when you are modifying your guns, keep that in consideration. And now we'll talk about, kind of how I modify guns. I'm gonna talk in general terms. And what I do for my guns, my firearms, is I modify them very, very little. And I only do it to enhance the reliability and then maybe with a slight performance upgrade. We'll take my Glock 19, for example. I just have gotten done doing some modifications to that. So what did I do? I put in a trigger connector. It's a company made Ghost. It's their 4.5 pound CAT, and I think CAT stands for Combat Action Trigger. I kept it at 4.5 pounds because the heavier trigger pull is part of the safety system of a Glock. In other words, if you have too light a trigger, if you are holstering your gun with your finger still in the trigger housing and you holster your gun and the holster pushes against your trigger finger, you could have an accidental discharge with a lighter trigger because you won't feel the tension taking up on your finger until it's too late. Whereas if you have a heavier trigger, you might catch yourself. You still could have an accidental discharge. Of course, the best course of action is keep your finger out of the trigger housing, but we are human. So the reason why I put this particular connector in is I wanted to make the trigger more crisp. It still has about 4.5, 5 pound trigger pull, but it's more crisp. It's not as spongy and as mushy as a standard Glock trigger is. It's more crisp. The short reset's a little bit quicker, and I've talked about that in another video. And so, that to me was a viable performance enhancement that did not affect the safety of the firearm when used in under field conditions. Another thing I did to my Glock is I added a slightly extended, they call it a bullet extended slide release, and all that is they put a little, like a dollop of metal on the slide release so it sticks out a little bit more, so you have a slightly more positive engagement of the slide release if you're using a slide release to release the slide and chamber around. The other slide was okay, but sometimes I found I missed it a little bit, so again, it was a minor enhancement. Another thing I did to the Glock is I put a magazine well butt plug in it, and what that does is it just prevents dirt and grime from going into the action from the bottom of the magazine of the pistol grip itself. It's the little hole behind the magazine well, and they make little plugs that you can stick up in there. And then when I bought the 19, I bought it with night sight, so it already had it. So really, that's all I've done to my Glock, and that's all I'm gonna do to it. And I did do one other thing. I replaced some of the springs. I put a heavier trigger spring, or actually it's a firing pin spring in there. And what that does is it makes the gun a little bit more reliable, makes it a little bit more safe. But it just changes the spring rate a little bit. And so that's all I've done. And that's all I'm going to do to it. I don't need to do any more to it. A lot of people think that the more you modify a gun, the better you will shoot. And really, that's not true. Really, it's you, the marksman, that makes the gun shoot. Almost every pistol manufactured today, of even mediocre quality, probably shoots better than the shooter. My Glock definitely shoots better than me. The other pistols I have, they shoot better than me. And it's up to me to do my part. And so rather than spend a lot of money on modifications, I'm not saying don't modify, but rather than spend a lot of money modifying, go get some lessons and learn how to shoot better. And that'll be your biggest advantage you'll have. Now, along with modifying your firearms, you need to make sure that they are still as reliable after as they were before. And when you change some parts in your firearm, you may have to re-break in your pistol. Now, when I changed the springs in my Glock, I noticed I'm getting a couple misspeeds when I went to the range the other day. When I first started out, I had quite a few, but then towards the end of my session, they really started to pan out. And what that tells me is I need to break in my firearm again and just shoot it some more until everything settles in. And that may happen as you modify your gun. So before you put your gun back into service, make sure you're doing a reliability check. And I would say put a minimum of 100 rounds, probably 200 to 300 rounds through that firearm before you place it back into service. And that's very important. You got to make sure it's very reliable before you put it back into service. So that's what I do, and that's what I'm doing with the Glock right now. It's still not exactly where I want it. I'm going to shoot it some more. If I still can't smooth it out, I may put another spring, or I may put the old original spring back in. I think my new spring's a little bit heavier, and so I may need to go back to a lighter spring. Does it mean my modification was a failure? No, not at all. Was it a bad spring? Probably not. Every gun's a little bit different, And my particular pistol may not like that particular spring, so if I go back to the original spring, that may take care of it. But first I want to give the new spring an opportunity to settle in and see how it does. But once I'm fairly confident that the pistol's 100% reliable, I will put it back into service. I have other pistols I can use in the meantime. So, but it's important that you do that. And then the last thing, which really should be the first thing, is I want to take a moment and talk about gun safety. I've touched upon it a little bit, but when you have a gun, if you are, you can't. It's to sit there and say always have your gun unloaded is not a good caveat. Is if you conceal carry, if you have one in your nightstand, it's loaded. Now, you should never carry your gun in a condition that's above your experience level. In other words, if you're not comfortable concealed carry with a loaded chamber, then don't load the chamber because you're an accident waiting to happen. If you have to, I think they call it condition 3, hammer down, no round in the chamber. I may be wrong on the conditions. It's been a while since I looked at them, but that's the way the Israelis, I think, the way they carry it. Loaded magazine, no round in the chamber. The first thing they do is rack the slide. If that's your level of experience, fine. If you are comfortable carrying with a loaded chamber, then do that, but make sure you're safe. And one of the safest things you can do is only point the gun at something you intend to shoot. That should be whether it's loaded or unloaded. So, keep those, and then keep your finger out of the trigger housing unless you're ready to shoot something. In other words, your finger should be alongside the slide until you're absolutely ready to shoot. And then, of course, when you are doing maintenance, such as cleaning your gun, showing it to your friends or whatever, you always make sure the first thing you do is that the chamber's unloaded. Now, do I show myself clearing a weapon every time I shoot a YouTube video? No, I do not. But it's not my responsibility for your safety. It's your responsibility for your safety. So keep that in mind, that when you're handling firearms, keep them safe. And a loaded firearm is safe if the shooter or the marksman or the person holding it is safe. So keep yourself safe, keep yourself secure, take care of your firearms. Don't let them, don't clean them once every couple of years. I'm not saying do that, but you don't have to clean them every time you shoot. But, at the minimum, at least once a year, take them apart and look, because if a gun gets too dirty, it won't fire, and it probably won't fire at the time you need it most. So that's all I got for you for today. Just a quick video, a little bit about guns and modifications and serviceability. I hope everybody's having a good holiday season. Shalom, peace to you all, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy, whatever your, beliefs are. May you enjoy them to the best of your ability. So stay safe and stay secure. We'll see you out there.